Well, it's very good to see you here at Residual Rebate Training, part number 3, Strategic Details. And the reason for that is part of the name is obviously it's just for those people who really want to know all there is to know. And it's about the people who want to develop a large rebate shopping group. Because we're going to cover things like fair balance rules, and you want to know that so you're sure you're getting all of your rebates, and also something called multiple positions, which again, if you're serious about building a large shopping group, you should know about these. So let's get started. Let's talk first of all about fair group balance. Now what that means is that group balancing ensures a fair distribution of the rebate pool. Now we know that members receive rebates for their contribution to the growth of the club, but the intention is for members to receive rebates in proportion to their efforts. So what balancing does is protect members from the pool being drained unfairly. And what unfairly means is someone taking more out of the pool than they can really justify for the amount of effort they've put into creating the pool. Let me give you a few examples. So if we were looking at unfair distribution, let's just use 1,500 members because it's nice easy math to work with. So here's a group of 1,350, 100, and 50. I think you can see just logically that this is a group out of balance. What this shows is very actual little effort from the member. So for example, this person could have had a big group gifted into that first group, which means that they had very little to do with developing that first group. If this person was really a good contributor to the club, they would have a better balance than what we see here. If we just gave rebates out according to what's happening here, this person would get an unfair distribution of the pool. Let's take a look at another one. Here we've got a group of 1,000, another group of 490, and another group of 10. Well, you know, that's not as badly balanced, but it's still unbalanced and it's still unfair because group number 3 is not getting a support from this person at all. And again, it could have been a result from a gifting or a runaway group by some other leader being in that group. So it behooves us to say that a person should have better balance than this, or they're not really the ones that's contributing to the club like we'd like them to. Now let's look at this last one. Now here's a group that's perfectly in balance, so certainly they should get all their rebates. The fact of the matter, they will get all their rebates, okay? But what we're saying is this is unfair to you, to the member, for the club to demand that you keep your groups perfectly in balance to get all of your rebates. So you see, when we talk about balance, we want to have it go both ways. So let's talk a little bit more about what balancing is. Well, first of all, groups will grow at different rates, and we know that. That's for sure, okay? We can't expect anybody, again, to be in perfect balance. So balancing will be done on the shared array groups. Now, these are affected by both the leadership and gifting, as we know. So if we just look at this group, all the gray are non-active members, okay? So we can only talk the ones that have some color to them. So in this case, we add those all up, we have 25 active members. And we look at the different size groups. Well, if we size them from 1 to 3, then number 1 is obviously the one with 13. Now 13 is 52% of 25. The next group would be group number 2, which has 8, and that's 32%. And the final group only has 3 active members, but it's still 16% of the 25. So that's what we're going to do every month. No matter how big the group is, we're going to size it up and put a percentage on each of the 3 groups. Now once we have that percentage, all of the rebates will be paid out. If that group is in balance, you get 100% of your rebates. If you're not in balance, you'll get a certain percentage of your rebates that is fair distribution. We'll do that for both the shared and the overage. Now you don't have to worry about this at all because this is all going to be shown up in your dashboard and you'll have very clear numerical and graphical representation of your balance. And that's important because you don't have to stay out of balance. You can always get back in balance by developing any groups that are out of balance. And we'll talk about that a little bit as we proceed also. So here's what's going to happen. There's actually going to be 3 balance stages with 10 milestones. And you can see they're the same 10 milestones we had before, but now they're put in different stages. And each one of those stages has a slightly different balance requirement. And again, we'll use these also for recognition, but also to show you whether you're in balance. And if you're not in balance, even if you're at that level of the number of members, then you will drop back to your balance level as far as the distribution of the rebates. So let me make that clear. Let's look at this next chart. So here we have a chart that's called Balance Requirements for Rebate Distributions. That's going to tell us our requirements at each of these stages, Stage 1, Stage 2, and Stage 3. Stage 1 is for 1 to 199 active members. And what that says is out of the group active members, no more than 70% can count from one group. That's what would be in balance. Now it says Group 1 and Group 2, but really that could be Group 2, 3, doesn't matter. It just says that you can't have more than 70% of your members coming from one group or you would be out of balance. Now Stage 2 goes from 200 to 4,999 active members. That does take 3 groups. Now what this says is, of the group active members, that's your total group, no more than 65% can count from one group, no more than 90% can count from two groups, and 10% must come from the remaining group. And that says that you're in balance. If you do not have those conditions, then you'd be out of balance, and you would receive a percentage based on the out of balanced amount. But as long as you stay within these parameters, which really are not that difficult, then you'll get 100% of your rebates. Now let's take a look at stage 3, which goes from 5,000 to 10,000 plus active members. Again, that's 3 groups. It just changes slightly. This says of the group active members, no more than 60% can count from one group, no more than 85% can count from two groups, and 15% must come from the remaining group. So it's just slightly more difficult than stage 2, but not much. Let me give you several examples to show some of these. Let's start by reminding you that the purpose of balancing is to ensure a fair distribution of the rebates to the members from the pool. So let's start with a stage 1 example, and again that says you cannot have any more than 70% from one group. So this would be a model group. We've got 100, we've got 70 in one group and 30 in another group. That's in balance because no more than 70% is coming from one group. Now let's take a look at an actual group. The actual group here has got 85 in one group and 15 in another group. Well, that is out of balance because that 85 is too much. You cannot have more than 70% from one group. So we'd have to mark an X there. No, that's out of balance. So how many can we attribute to that one group? Well, we can give the 70. No more than 70% from one group. So they get the 70 in their first group. They only have 15 left over. So if we add those two together, they're going to get total out to 85 people, and that would wind up to be 85%. So they'll receive 85% of the rebates from their entire group, and that's fair. Now remember that then leaves the other rebates back in the pool for the other people who are in fair balance to share in those. And again, well, these people can always get back in balance. Let's take another example. Now let's go to a stage 2. That's where you can have no more than 65% from one group, no more than 90% from two groups, but you must have 10% from a third group. So again, let's look at our model. Our model would be a group of 1,000, which would have 650, that's 65%, and then 900, which would be an extra 250 at least in that second group, and 100 in the third group to add up to 1,000. So that would be 65%, 90%, 100% if we looked at that no more than. Now if you follow along with me, we'll see our actual group has 1,450, and how that's distributed is 850 are in the first group, 500 in the second group, and 100 in the third group. Now actually that looks pretty good. So even though it looks like it's balanced, actually it's not, because what it says is that you must have 10% of your group in the third group. Now 10% of 1,450 is 145. But take a look at that number 3 group, you only have 100. So you can only get rebates based on the fact that there is 100. So you'd have to work out the numbers to say, well, if this only had 100, what would the numbers be? Well, actually, we've already worked the numbers up from above, because a group that would have 100 would have 650 in the first group, 250 in the second group, and that's all the rebates that we can distribute on. So in this case, the first group is off because we don't have that 10% in the third group. The second group is off because we don't have that 10% in the third group. So what we can do is we can distribute 650, which is only 45% of the first group, 250, which brings it up to 62% of between the two groups, and again the extra 100, which means they get 69% of the actual amount of members that they have. So we will distribute to them 69% of the rebates that come from this group, which is now putting them into a fair balance. Finally, let's look at the last one, which is stage 3. That's where you have 60% coming from one group, 85% from two, and 15% from a third, okay? Our model is on a group of 5,000. You've got 3,000 in the first group. 4,250 would add up to make the 85% from the second group. And again, the third group has 750, which is 5,000. That's a model. That one is actually exactly right. Well, in our actual, we have another group of 5,000, but it only has 2,250 in the first group and 2,000, which is way more than the 1,250 in the second group. But you know what? This group is in balance because 45% in the first group is under the 60%. It's okay. You don't have to have 60. You can only have up to 60% in the first group. You can have up to 85% in the first and second group. In this case, just because there's 2,000 there, it adds up to 4,250, and that's up to 85%. So they're all okay. And the 750 matches the 15% requirement. So in this case, even though these looks like different percentages, this group is in balance. They're all okay. So we can distribute 100% of the rebates that come from this group. Now, you may not have understood this. It was a very quick overview, but like I said, this whole section is about awareness. It's just aware that you need to be in balance. But, being out of balance is temporary. We will let you know all about this in your dashboard. You'll be able to see how balanced you are, what your percentages are, and you'll know where that you need to beef things up if you can't. So, what you need to do is concentrate your activity on the unbalanced groups to get them back in balance. All right, let's go over this chart one more time and kind of summarize. First of all, these milestones provide group targets for balance and recognition. In fact, that's what we were doing in that last chart. We were actually bringing you back to your balances. Doesn't matter how many numbers you have. When we said that you only got like 85%, well, the 85% brought you back in balance for a certain level. So you have to be balanced at that stage to be recognized at that stage and also to receive rebates at that stage, okay? So being out of balance is temporary, and it's a positive incentive to get in balance, so it's a good thing. Now, one more thing that's in addition here is this also require a correct amount of personal rebate generation. So you can see on here, we're talking about stage 1 is doing 10, 10, and $20 worth of rebate generation. Stage 2 is 20, 30, 30, and $40 worth of rebate generation. Of course, by stage 3, you need to be doing the $50 worth of rebate generation in order to receive the rebates at those particular milestone levels. Finally, I want to mention something here called a free position. At stage 3, at each one of those stages, when you hit 5,000, 7,500, 10,000, you actually can have a free position that you can position anywhere in your group and start developing that position from there. It does not cost you a membership fee, and you do not have to do any shopping requirements. And now you can extend the reach of your group through these positions. You get 3 of them, put anywhere you want, and basically recreate a new group from those positions. Now let's go on to this idea. Since we've already brought up the idea of a multiple position, we're going to talk about multiple positions. Now I want to clear up that these are different from the ones I just talked about. The ones that are given to you as a result of hitting 5,000, there's no requirements for those. These are now multiple positions that anyone wants to take at any time, and there's different requirements for them. Well, the reason might be that you want to have additional rebates, so you want to put a new position inside your original positions array. You can do that, but here's the rule. You must complete and maintain the original shopping circle or the shopping circle of any multiple positions before adding or receiving rebates from multiple positions. Basically, what that means, if any of the shopping circles fail to complete, then you do not receive rebates from any of the multiple positions until all of the shopping circles are complete again. That's the only requirement, and you can have a multiple position. That's one type of multiple position. The next one is called a cross array position, and this is where you're taking a position outside of your original position. That would be, for example, of course you want to have additional rebates, but also maybe something like you want to have a position in a foreign country with a leader that wants to work with your particular group, and so you take a position inside their group so that you're making sure that the people that you have over there are really getting lots of support. Now, there's some requirements to do that because, again, we're always sensitive about maintaining and keeping the integrity of your original position. So before you can receive any rebates from this multiple position, you must have 33 active members with at least 10 in each of the 3 shopping circle groups in your original position before you can receive any of these rebates. Now, the reason for that is to protect the people who brought you to the club. We don't want to make it so that you really can't do this, but we want to make sure that you take care of your original group. It means that you're going to have a big enough vested interest in that group to stay in there and keep developing your original position while you also have this other position over here, because you now have done enough to warrant being over here to have this second position. But you'll see in a minute that it's just not all roses with these multiple positions, so I want to clear this up. So let's talk about this. You can have the 2 positions, but they're tracked separately. You'll have a separate number, but all shared rebates are received through the original position. So you'll have a position 1 and position 2, but you'll just get all of your rebates coming to position 1 for both. But both positions must be active members and meet the shopping requirements. So you're going to have to pay $25 monthly fee in each one of those until you have 3 in each of the groups. And you're also going to have to shop in each one of those. Okay, so that's important. You have to do your active member shopping in each one of these to make them active in order to be able to receive rebates, besides for developing the shopping circle in both of them, or the 33 in the one and the 3 in the other, etc. So you got to be sure you meet all the requirements. Now, another thing about multiple positions is when we talk about overage, all of the overage will go to the original position. So even if you had that other position over in a foreign country or something like this, then that's great, because the people, they will help you in the shared array part. But if you bring on more people into that position, they don't get the overage over there. All the overage will come back, and that's another protection for your original group. All overage goes into the original position, so that you're only developing one overage connection group, and which is plenty to handle. So now that you understand the fair balance and the multiple positions, that's it for this section. And we just want to remind you that we are the Worldwide Shoppers Club, a not-for-profit private volunteer membership club. And we're in the cloud, so we don't have any restrictions. We can be international anywhere. We provide a wonderful financial opportunity because we support merchants, and merchants give us rebates, and all of those rebates go to an international bank. And then we add on top of that our enhancement rebates, and we pay that out through the residual rebate system, which directs more than 100% of our rebates back to the membership on a monthly basis, and around it goes. And it's a really, really exciting concept, as you can see. And as I mentioned, that this particular section was more about just an awareness. Don't worry about all these numbers. You'll know about them when they get there. Don't worry about multiple positions. You'll know when you want one. But now you just know they exist, and that's all that has to happen through this section. Okay, you can always refer back to it. So remember, it's a new way to live, work, and play. It's join, shop, and redeem. And now if you want to go to section 4, it's another kind of reference section. It's not something that you absolutely need to know. It just goes over the mathematics and how we actually calculate the rebates. And for those that want to know, it's going to be there, because we want to have full disclosure as part of the goals of our club. All right, so we'll see you on the other side, and thanks for being here once again. Just a little bit more to go.